Welcome back to the exciting video. And what we are going to do today is we're going to talk about vibrato. That is correct. Not the kind you use in your voice, but the same idea. So, just put up the video on how hard you should pick and how softly you should caress your fretboard with your meaty, fat little digits. So if you watch that video, this is kind of the next part of that. I didn't want to put it all in one video because, hell, you know how my videos are. They're way too long already to begin with. So I decided to break this one up. So hence, as you can tell, I am getting a message here on said Apple Watch. I'm getting ready to bolt to the gym after this video is shot. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about vibrato. Why are we talking about vibrato? Chances are because your vibrato sucks. Now, you could be one of those guys that have an amazing vibrato. I have an amazing vibrato. It is literally heralded as one of the best in the world. If you don't believe me, just ask me and I will tell you how great my vibrato really is. Now, before we get started on that, please subscribe to my channel. You can like my video, which helps out tremendously. You can also share my video, which also just happens to help out tremendously. And it really helps keep the channel going and doing what I am doing. And as you can see, if you did not watch the last video, I am now in the new podcast room, the new podcast and music room. Thank God it is up so I can get back on track because I have been gone for a couple of weeks getting all this ready, and that's just how life is sometimes. But if you want to support the channel even further, you can jump over to my Patreon page. I'm finally getting everything on my Patreon page squared away, and you can join for $1 a month. That is correct. One whopping dollar, and you can jump on. So on that note, let's get going on with vibrato. Why are we talking about vibrato? Because I see a lot of people whose vibrato, well, it's just shit. See it all the time. And fortunately, I am not one of those people who have shitty vibrato. But it's not something that I just happen to gain naturally. I am not Eddie Van Halen. I did not come out of the womb to be a guitar god. I had to work just to suck. I had to work tremendously hard. But on my journey of working the path, the trials and tribulations of a young man to get to great vibrato playing, and to be generally not a bad guitarist. Let's be honest. It takes a lot of work, and vibrato is one of those things you just think, well, hell, it's vibrato. Just pick a string. And that's shitty vibrato. That's terrible vibrato. And I see a lot of guys, now don't get me wrong, I see a lot of people do this, and it works for them, and that's great. I'm not saying they're doing it wrong. I'm just saying there's a better way to do it. I actually see guys do vibrato like what I just did. That's really not a good way to do vibrato. Because first off, it wears my damn hand down. If I'm playing something that requires a lot of vibrato, you got to think of how hard you have to hold on to the string. And yes, I'm going against what I said in the last video. In the last video, I was talking about for playing general guitar. And I did say, now, if you're doing a bend or something like that, you got to get into it a little harder, and that is normal. But the same thing on vibrato. But if I'm doing it this way, that's not good. And that's about as fast as I can do it to make a real vibrato. And it actually makes my fingers very tired. You know, it's like grabbing one of those hand and forearm strengtheners, you know, just doing this all the time. And it's actually not a very good way to do it because you're never going to be very consistent doing it that way. So get away from using your fingers. And the best way to do vibrato is to use your hand, kind of like, use this point of a hand right here, kind of like a fulcrum. If you don't know what a fulcrum is, then I feel bad for you. I truly do. Look it up. But use it kind of like a fulcrum. And the best thing to do is when it doesn't matter what finger you're using, is when you pick a string, if I rotate my hand, it naturally pulls the string down. And I don't have all this crap going on with my fingertips. I can hold my finger in one position and just rock my hand. And that causes a vibrato. I can do it faster, I can do it more fluid, and I can do it much better, believe it or not. And you can do it with all your fingers. If we do the index finger, if we do the middle finger, we do our third finger, we do our fourth finger. You can do it with all your fingers by using this part of your hand as a fulcrum. And you're moving it, and all you're doing is wiggling the string. And it's pretty effortless doing it this way. And even when I bend up, I'm still not doing this with my fingers. I'm still using my hand, this part of my hand, and I don't know if you can, let me see if I doubt you'll be able to see it. But if you look real quick, how that part of my hand's white, because that's the part that's hitting the neck, and I'm rocking it, even on a bend. And that is the easiest way I know to do good vibrato bends. And you can get really deep bends that way too. I mean, you can really just get these insane, UFO sounding bends. And normally I would have my little noise dampener up here because I do use a lot of distortion in my guitars. But if you put the edge of the neck, if you take the bottom of the neck here, obviously the bottom, and you set however you're going to hold it, you set that part, this part of the hand right here below the finger on the edge of the guitar. And then when you grab a string, just rock your hand back and forth. And however big of a vibrato you want, that's how much you rock your hand. You want a little vibrato, you rock it a little bit. And you can do it very fast too. Just a nice slight little bee buzzing vibrato. You want a bigger vibrato, just rock a little more. And it just makes it so much easier by rocking that hand. Now on this one, you can see I'm rocking down, because I only have the one finger. When I get this third finger on here, I'm actually rocking up. I'm pushing up this way, but I'm not doing this with my fingers. That's what you don't want to do. Let your hand do the work. Save your fingers when you need them for soloing. So let the hand do all of the work. Now, when you're doing it on a regular string, and we're just doing it on string number 3, so grab this G string, and if we're just going to do a regular vibrato, we're going to hit the C note right here. Just do a regular vibrato. That's easy. But now if I bend, how do we do a vibrato on that? When you're doing a vibrato, when you're bending, I still rock the hand the same, but if you notice, I'm always staying under the intended target note. I'm never going over. One thing about guitar that I have found over the years is it's always better to play a little flat than it is a little sharp. But the weird thing, vocally, I always think it sounds, and granted, it sounds terrible if you're out of pitch, but it always sounds better. If you're out of pitch, it's always better to be out of pitch a little sharp vocally than flat vocally. But on guitar, it always sounds better to play a little flat. If you missed a note, miss it on the low side. Don't miss it on the high side. Because we're so used to playing flats, when we do the blues scale, We're so used to these quarter bends, Here's our note. We're so used to hearing that. These little quarter flat bends. So if you're going to bend a string and do vibrato, you don't want to bend over the note. If this is our intended note, we want to vibrato below it back up to pitch. And what I'm doing is I'm using this part of my hand, right there, the white part, as the fulcrum for the hand. We don't want to pitch over. Now it just sounds weird. And I'm going up so high, I'm starting to fret off because my action is very low. I'm starting to fret off the string above it. So just do a little on the bottom. Find your note, and then up and down. And just use this hand here And if you see, my hand is still rocking in that same spot as I do this way, except for one finger, I vibrato down. For 2 fingers, I will vibrato down. For 3 fingers, I vibrato up. For 4 fingers, I will vibrato up also. That's just the way that I do it. You could probably vibrato up or down for all of them. That's just the way that I do it. But for one, it's just easier to... And it looks cool. Looks like you know what you're doing. Got some serious B.B. King shit going on here. Get that little B sound. So, that's the best way to do vibrato. Don't do it this way. Now, see you guys doing it. If it works for them, that's great. But this is not correct, doing it like this. And I can't even do it good. I can't do that for shit. And all it does is I feel the tension here in my hands, but where I really feel it is right here, the tension. Well, when this starts to get tired, these are going to quit working every single time. Use this part of the hand for the fulcrum. Get you a good bite on that finger, and there again, if you haven't watched the last video, check it out. You don't have to press this string too hard. You don't have to squeeze the life out of it to get it to lock in for the vibrato. This is how hard I'm hitting the string. And I've adjusted no pressure for this light vibrato. Now, if I'm going to do a heavy vibrato, obviously I got to adjust the pressure a little tighter, kind of like when you're doing a bend. So, work on that. Use this part of your hand as the fulcrum. And when you're doing a bend, you vibrato down, back to pitch, down, back to pitch, down, back to pitch. Don't go up, down to pitch, up, down to pitch, because it's always going to sound terrible. And I don't know, just when it sounds sharp on a guitar, it just doesn't sit pleasing to our ears. But sometimes if it goes flat on a guitar, a lot of people don't even notice it because we're so used to hearing it on a guitar. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you're still curious, if you haven't seen the last video, when I talked a couple of videos ago about the great pick hunt that I am going on, check out the last video. I'll put a thing at the end of this video so you can link back to it if you have not seen it. And that video is about how hard you should strum and pick and how hard you should press the neck. Because the ultimate goal here is for all of us to be rock gods. Even though most of us are not ever going to be, that's okay. But we might as well excise and get as much potential as we can out of our playing. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up right there. And like the great Sammy Hagar says, if you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm, and nothing falls into place. And that pretty much works for every damn thing in your life, man. You miss the beat and you get off the rhythm, you are screwed. But until the next time, no matter what you do, for the love of God, rock on.